the shape of a tropical cyclone, or how this tropical cyclone is made up of different parts, and what are those different parts. The simplistic, that is the wall and the eye of a tropical cyclone, is the structure of a tropical cyclone. Here there are some of the important concepts which are asked in the preliminary examination, that is, what is an eye of a cyclone, or what are the conditions that are associated with an eye of a cyclone. Again repeating how the tropical cyclone is made up of. Tropical cyclone, if you look on the ground, if this is a seawater, then the tropical cyclone, you know that it develops over the cold oceanic surface. If this is a land, it will develop over the cold oceanic, it will develop over the warm oceanic surfaces. And how does it develop? It develops because the warm oceanic surfaces having temperature greater than 27 degrees Celsius provide a low pressure conditions. On this low pressure conditions, the winds from different sides are drawn into this low pressure conditions, and they rise upward because there is a low pressure. Due to rising upwards, there is condensation. Condensation through this process results into addition of heat, that is, the heat is released in the process of condensation. When the heat is released, it is added to the surrounding atmosphere. The atmosphere becomes warm. As a result, the low pressure intensifies and the winds further rise upwards, and very intensive low pressure develops, and the winds, they rise upwards. Due to rising up of the winds, there is a vertical overdraft of wind, and after going at a certain height in the tropopause, they diverge into different directions. Because they diverge into different directions, we call this the center, the upper part of a tropical cyclone. We say that it is made up of an anticyclone, while the lower part is a cyclone. Why the upper part is an anticyclone? Because in anticyclones the winds go to the different sides, while in the cyclones the winds converge, while on the other hand in the anticyclone the winds diverge. Due to sudden updraft of the air, there is a formation of an cumulonimbus clouds. Very huge cumulonimbus clouds are formed wherever there is an updraft of the wind, or wherever there is a formation of a wind. And how is the structure of a cumulonimbus cloud? We have done the structure of a cumulonimbus cloud is like a cauliflower in shape or anvil on the top, and hence this cumulonimbus, you have to and hence this cumulonimbus clouds are formed. Now obviously the cumulonimbus clouds, you can see the height of the cumulonimbus cloud. You can looking at the diagram, you can just get a rough idea of the velocity or of the intensity of a tropical cyclone, because very huge clouds are formed. Huge cumulonimbus clouds are formed. Such kind of a cyclone obviously becomes very dangerous. So the structure of a tropical cyclone is somewhat like this. There is a central part, as you can see, the central part, which is a cloudless, clear part, is known as an eye of a cyclone. This is known as an eye of a cyclone. While the surrounding two parts, that is this wall of a cumulonimbus cloud and this wall of a cumulonimbus cloud, is known as wall of a cumulonimbus cloud. Or it is known as an eye wall. It is known as an eye wall. Now at the center there is a low pressure zone in the center of a cyclone, that is below the eye, there is a low pressure zone, while there are anticyclonic conditions or high pressure is formed here, from where the winds diverge into different directions. Now this wall of the cumulonimbus cloud is an area where the winds will rise upwards. Obviously whenever there are clouds, this is an area where the rainfall occurs, or a very, very heavy precipitation will occur in this region. So this is how the tropical cyclone will look like. What are these drops? These dots are nothing but the precipitation and rainfall which is occurring. So can by the diagram, in fact this is the diagram which you should draw in the examination if the question comes on the tropical cyclone, and obviously label the figure as a structure of a cyclone. Of tropical cyclone. So how can we write about the tropical cyclone? The structure of a tropical cyclone consists of a central part which is known as an eye of a cyclone, while the remaining two parts are known as eye wall or wall of cumulonimbus clouds. What do we can write about of an eye of a cyclone? The eye of a cyclone is a central part which is a rainless, you can see the gap here, cloudless, there are no clouds on the top, center where there are presence of calm conditions and no winds on the ground surface or very light winds on the ground surface. So eye of a tropical cyclone, the structure of a tropical cyclone consists of first the central core or the eye, or eye of a cyclone. What does this eye consist of? This is a largely cloudless, warm and calm area. This is largely cloudless, warm and calm area in the center of a cyclone. In the center of a cyclone. Remember that what is despite being a low pressure, a low pressure zone, despite being a low pressure zone, see this area has a calm conditions. Surprisingly, it is having a calm conditions. It is surprisingly having a calm conditions. Surrounding the eye of a cyclone is the eye wall. Eye wall, it is made up of wall of cumulonimbus cloud. Is made up of a wall of a cumulonimbus clouds. Obviously, because it is made up of wall of a cumulonimbus cloud, and as you can see in the diagram, if you are standing here, this is an area which receives winds from all the sides. So this is an area which is having the most destructive potential. That means this is an area jahan pe there are very, very strong winds, jahan pe there is a very heavy precipitation along with thunder and lightning because of the formation of an cumulonimbus cloud. So the eye wall is made up of wall of a cumulonimbus cloud. This area receives the greatest of precipitation. And very high velocity winds. And very high velocity winds. So how is the structure of a tropical cyclone? On the ground, in the eye, at the center, there is a presence of low pressure, of low pressure conditions on the ground. On the other hand, high pressure or anticyclonic conditions exist at height of around 16 kilometers near the tropopause. Near tropopause. So this is how the tropical cyclone structure. Now, if somebody asks you the tropical cyclone structure, you have to remember this diagram. How is the tropical cyclone made up of? There is an eye, which is a calm center, which is having a cloudless center. Cloudless center means there is a clear sky. The lack of clear sky means no rainfall, but remember that it is a low pressure center. So what is the surprising? Though being a low pressure center, it is having no rainfall. Why it is? As I told you that we have fully not understood the phenomena of a tropical cyclone, because it is not that easy phenomena to go in and study. There is a risk of life associated with the tropical cyclone. So the full studies of tropical cyclones have not been done. But what we know as of today is that the central part is a calm, cloudless, rainless center where the sun shines brightly. Obviously, the clear sky when the sun will shine brightly, which is having warm conditions, is known as an eye of a cyclone. Now, the cyclone, surrounding the eye is a wall of cumulonimbus clouds. And because it is a wall of a cumulonimbus clouds, obviously it is that part which receives the rainfall, not the eye of a cyclone. As you can see here, the eye of a cyclone does not receive any kind of an rainfall, while the rainfall is associated with the surrounding parts, that is the wall of a cumulonimbus cloud. It is having very large diameters, and the height sometimes extends up to the tropopause. So at the ground there is a presence of low pressure, therefore the winds are rising upwards, converging and rising upwards, while at the top there is a high pressure, so the winds are diverging on the other side. So this is how the tropical cyclone looks like in your diagrams. How it looks like in the satellite imaginary, that we will do through the revision series, that is the geography through pictures and climatology through the pictures. Now in the next part we will do the weather conditions which are associated with the tropical cyclone. Weather conditions that are associated with the tropical cyclone. See in the map, in anywhere in the world, the tropical cyclones which are created, we will take an example of India here. The tropical cyclones which are generated, they after originating, they travel westwards, and therefore they hit India. Even if wherever they originate, they generally travel westwards after originating, while on the other hand the temperate cyclones after originating they travel eastwards. Why? What is the difference between this? Now the temperate cyclones travel eastwards because they come under the influence of the westerly winds. This is the area where the westerly blow. On the other hand, the tropical cyclone, they travel westwards because they come under the influence of easterly winds, and therefore they after originating they travel eastwards. So you remember the tropical cyclones, the temperate cyclones which originate, you already have travel eastwards, because they come under the influence of the westerly winds, while the tropical cyclones they travel westwards. Why do they travel westwards? Because they come under the influence of easterly winds. What do you mean by westwards? That means from east to west. They come under the influence of an easterly wind. So the temperate cyclones which originate in the higher latitude, they come under the influence of westerlies and they travel eastwards. That is, travel from west to the east. On the other hand, tropical cyclones, after originating between 5 degrees to 15 degrees in both the hemispheres, they travel westwards because they come under the east to west flowing trade winds. So this tropical cyclone, when it is traveling westwards, if you as a person are standing here, what will be the weather conditions associated with the tropical cyclone? What will be the initial condition that is associated with the tropical cyclone if you are standing as a person here? So initially, what will you see? You will see that the winds are blowing from your back. Suddenly there will be reduction in the visibility. Remember that it is a low pressure center, therefore there will be increase in the temperature. So the arrival of a tropical cyclone is associated with very high velocity winds which will pull you inside the tropical cyclone. The increase of temperature, decrease of visibility, because it is cumulonimbus cloud, that visibility sometimes becomes almost zero. On the other hand, there will be very, very heavy rainfall along with the lightning and thunder. So the arrival of a tropical cyclone I'll write here tropical cyclone as TC, shortcut. The arrival of tropical cyclone is associated with sudden increase of temperature, sudden increase of temperature, high wind velocity, obviously decrease of pressure, due to cumulonimbus clouds, there is marked reduction in visibility. There is marked reduction in visibility and very heavy rainfall. Along with lightning and thunder. So whether you are standing here, initially you will see the dark clouds are approaching. When you are standing here, when the tropical cyclone approaches, there will be marked reduction in the visibility. You are inside the cumulonimbus cloud. You will experience very heavy precipitation. There will be warmth because it is a low pressure center, and low pressure center means high temperature, and obviously very, very high velocity winds which will pull you inside the tropical cyclone. Over the period of time, this tropical cyclone will come and hit the land surface. So your next position, suppose you come and stand, the position is inside the eye of a cyclone. that is this third position, what will be the experience? If you come in the center of a cyclone, that is the eye of a cyclone, then you will experience clear and cloudless sky. Initially there was a battering, the winds were battering you, the rainfall was very punishing, the wind velocity was tremendous, it was all drawing you inside the tropical cyclone. Obviously you felt as if there is a great natural disaster. But suddenly the eye of a cyclone appears and suddenly the things improve. That is, the wind velocity, there is a sudden drop in the velocity of the wind. It is a low pressure center, so obviously temperatures are high, but there is a cloudless and clear sky. Sun shines brightly through it. There is no rainfall in it. So the eye of a tropical cyclone is characterized by cloudless and clear sky, light, feeble winds, as if the weather has become very clear, as the atmosphere has become stable. But unfortunately, such condition lasts only for maybe hour or half an hour. And suddenly, you come again on the tail part of a tropical cyclone. Again, the conditions are the same. That is, the high velocity winds are there. But now it is coming from the opposite side. So it is like, again, you are being pulled up in the tropical cyclone. So again, there is a marked reduction in the visibility. Again, there is cloudless, there is a wall of a cumulonimbus cloud. Again you are in the between of very very heavy rainfall and life threatening conditions due to high velocity winds. But the most dangerous part of the tropical cyclones, I will do it while doing the cyclone as a disaster, is you remember that the tropical cyclones originate on the oceans, and because of low pressure center there is sudden increase in the oceanic waves. So very high velocity waves are generated which come and hit the shores and flood the shores. Obviously it washes away even the coastal regions. See, this very high velocity waves are known as storm surges or tidal surge. So how are the weather conditions? The weather conditions, as you see, are mostly devastating weather conditions. That is, there is a wall of arrival of a cyclone, same conditions, then there comes the eye of a cyclone, and then comes the later part of a cyclone. So first there is an arrival of a cyclone. In the second part, arrival of an eye of a cyclone. This arrival of an eye of a cyclone, what is the diameter of an eye of a cyclone? The diameter ranges between 10 kilometers to 100 kilometers. Arrival of an eye of a cyclone is characterized by, what are the conditions associated with? It's characterized by weak winds, cloudless and clear sky, bright sunshine, and no rainfall. We call such conditions as calm conditions. We call such conditions as calm conditions. See, generally these conditions are associated with high pressure, but remember that eye of a cyclone is also a low pressure zone at ground level. It is a low pressure zone at a ground level. But remember, such condition exists for around mostly for hour or half an hour. And suddenly again the third is with the coming up of rear portion of a cyclone. Again the weather condition deteriorates. Or weather becomes bad. Again the weather becomes bad. Now what are the how does the weather changes or deteriorates? There is change in the wind direction. There is change in the wind direction. Obviously, the winds now come from the opposite direction, but then there is a very heavy precipitation. Very heavy rainfall. Why? Because of the cumulonimbus cloud, lightning and thunder. And the less visibility, that is the same conditions which are associated, except that there is a change in the direction. So the weather conditions associated with the tropical cyclone are first the arrival of a cyclone, weather deteriorates, then the weather suddenly becomes good again with the arrival of an eye of a cyclone, and the weather again becomes bad with the arrival of a rear portion of the cyclone. Now, how does the tropical cyclone die, or what is the life cycle of a tropical cyclone? What is the driving force for the tropical cyclone? As I told you, what is the how? If this is an Indian part, we will take in the month of September, the Indian part is hit by the tropical cyclones which originate mostly over the Bay of Bengal. Now they travel in the easterly direction and they come and hit the eastern coast of India. So how does the tropical cyclone die? What is the condition which is necessary for the tropical cyclone, or where does the birth of a tropical cyclone takes place? The tropical cyclone, you know, is a moist heat engine. What do you mean by moist heat engine? That means it derives energy from warm oceans. Sorry. That means if a tropical cyclone originates over the warm oceans, after originating in this region, it will travel eastwards. As soon as the eye of a cyclone comes and hits the land, the moist heat is cut off. That is, when this eye of a cyclone or the center part of a cyclone, when it comes on the land, the eye of a cyclone does not get the moist heat, and therefore the tropical cyclone dies. So what can we say? As soon as the tropical cyclone makes a landfall, this is a geographical term which signifies the central part of a tropical cyclone. When it comes on the land, it is known as a landfall. The tropical cyclone has made a landfall. As soon as it comes on the land, the tropical cyclone dies. The tropical cyclone, therefore, the tropical cyclone dies when source of moist heat is cut off. The source of moist heat is cut off. That is when the tropical cyclone that is when the tropical cyclone center comes on the land. When tropical cyclone center comes on the land, then obviously the source of moist heat is cut off, and therefore the tropical cyclone dies. The tropical cyclone derives the energy from the moist heat. Therefore, the tropical cyclone dies when the source of a moist heat is cut off, and when the source of the moist heat is cut off, when the center comes on the land. Such a position is known as landfall of a tropical cyclone. So this is the structure and the process of a tropical cyclone. Now again I will revise. What is a tropical cyclone? The tropical cyclone is a moist heat engine which requires some of the conditions, that is the presence of warm and moist heat in the form of an latent heat of condensation, which is derived from evaporation over the oceanic surfaces. It is this latent heat of condensation which gives energy to the tropical cyclone, and therefore one of the foremost condition for the formation of a tropical cyclone is presence of warm ocean temperature over 27 degrees Celsius. Such conditions are present in the tropics. Therefore, they originate in the tropical areas between 5 to 15 degrees latitude in both the hemispheres. Why they do not originate in between 0 to 5 degree latitudes in both the hemisphere? It is because the Coriolis force is minimum in such regions, that is between 0 to 5 degree latitudes in both the hemispheres, and the tropical cyclones require some amount of deviation force, some amount of Coriolis force, so that it spins, the winds spin like a top. And therefore the tropical cyclones, because of the minimum Coriolis force, are absent between 0 to 5 degrees. How is the tropical cyclone structure? The tropical cyclone structure consists of an eye of a cyclone, which is the central part of a cyclone, surrounded by an eye wall. This eye wall is made up of cumulonimbus clouds, very, very huge cumulonimbus clouds. So the eye of a cyclone is a rainless center, while the eye wall, which is made up of cumulonimbus cloud, has heavy amount of precipitation. So therefore the conditions associated with the tropical cyclones are, with the arrival of a cyclone, due to the presence of cumulonimbus cloud, there is a reduction in the visibility, very high amount of precipitation, and then increase of temperature because it is a low pressure. Then the eye comes, which is a rainless center, which is a rainless, cloudless center, therefore sun shines brightly, and again there is a change in wind direction, and again the conditions deteriorate. What does the tropical cyclone, where does it originate? It originates on the warm oceans. Where does it die? As soon as it makes landfall. What do you mean by landfall? Landfall means as soon as the central part of the tropical cyclone or eye of a tropical cyclone reaches the ground, reaches the land surface. Why? Because its source of because its source of moisture or the source of its energy, that is the moist heat, is cut off as soon as it comes on the land surface. So this is how the entire tropical cyclone looks like. Now here for preliminary examination, you remember the conditions associated with tropical cyclones. Remember the conditions which are associated with the tropical cyclones for the preliminary examination, you remember them. Okay, so with this, we will, in the next part, we will do the naming of a tropical cyclone and tropical cyclone as a disaster in India. Till the time we meet again, thank you very much.